We're now going to discuss how to make a proof for page 343, number 15. We're given a proportion, congruent angles, and asked to prove that lines are parallel. After checking out the given information and what the conclusion requires of us, it's very important to look at the diagram and see what that makes you think of in terms of past problems. It does have a side splitter look to it, but we can rule out side splitter pretty quickly. Parallel is not in the given, nor can we get it from the given information, and without parallel, we can't get side splitter. The proportion is in the given, and what side splitter usually ends with is a proportion. So if we already have one, we don't really need side splitter. But the clincher is that the side pieces H, J, and MK over here and over here are not mentioned anywhere in this example. It is very important when constructing a proof to eliminate bad ideas so that you can focus on good ideas. The other thing suggested by this diagram is similar triangles, which is why I marked the small triangle in blue and the large triangle in red. And I marked the corresponding sides with special shapes, so to speak. The strategy seems to be here that if we can prove these two triangles congruent, we can get angle 2 in blue to be congruent to angle J in red because they're corresponding angles of similar triangles and are congruent, but they're also corresponding angles for the two lines we're trying to prove are parallel. This problem, however, is quite tricky. The second ratio, GK over GM, is quite normal. GK is dashed red and GM is dashed blue, obviously corresponding and obviously in the same ratio together. The problem is the first ratio over here. GJ is solid red, so we would expect that GH would be with GJ in the ratio, and it's not. So we have to suspect there's some sort of substitution going on. The only question is, what is it? The information that angle 1 is congruent to angle G focuses our attention, if it's possible, with all the blue triangles going on and all the red triangles going on, that there's also a green triangle sitting in the middle of our problem, with angle 1 over here and angle G over here, making the green triangle isosceles. And if the angles are congruent, then the sides are congruent. And that's where our substitution is going to come from. Now let's look at the proof. We start out with the proportion that we were given. And now we mention that angle 1 is congruent to angle G, so that we can say that GH, which is over here, is congruent to HK, which is over here. Now all we have to do is rewrite this ratio a second time, except that HK is now out and GH is now in. We now have a ratio on the left and a ratio on the right of corresponding sides. All we have to do is find the angle in the middle, and we have SAS proportional. Of course, the angle in the middle is angle G is congruent to angle G, reflexive property. So we have that the triangle GHM in blue is similar to the triangle GJK in red by SAS proportional. And I showed you that I used step 4, the correct proportion, and step 5, the angle in the middle. This is optional. You don't have to put it in if you don't want to. Now that the triangles are similar, I can say angle J is congruent to angle 2, my corresponding angles. And I say that its corresponding angles of similar triangles are congruent. And I finally get to my conclusion that HM is parallel to JK, and this is where I mentioned that the two angles that were corresponding angles in the similar triangle are actually a different kind of corresponding angles that make lines parallel. As before, this solution will be on the portal together with a student copy, which is a blank copy of this problem. If you would like to get bonus points, what you can do is study this video if you need to, pause it, go backwards, review what you need to review, and then write the correct proof with a diagram that's marked the way mine is marked. And if you can show me the correspondence here, and if you can give me a proof that's correctly organized, you will get your bonus points.